Hi, so I just wanted to make a wee quick video off the back of the videos that I was making earlier on today when I was in Craigton Cemetery in Glasgow, doing some research trying to use burial registers to help me find the layers and graves of some people. Obviously I used some of my own family as an example of how you can do that kind of research, but I was hoping to find the grave of another individual at Craigton today, and he was called Dr. James Wilson, and the reason I was looking for Dr. Wilson is because there's a monument that's been standing in Ibrox to Dr. Wilson for over the past 120 years. Now, there was a memorial fountain atop of which a bronze bust of Dr. Wilson was placed, which has been proudly situated in the heart of the community here in Ibrox for over the past 120 years. But I think it's just a bit of a shame that you could probably stop anybody in the street outside and people wouldn't really be able to tell you who he was or what his significance was, and that's hopefully something that can be redressed. Certainly the people who are watching this video are about to learn who Dr. Wilson was. So he's not like the statues that you'll find outside Ibrox Stadium, dedicated to legends associated with Rangers Football Club, or not famous for sporting achievement. He wasn't a famous philanthropist. He wasn't a politician, or a soldier, or a poet. He was a local man, and I think that's what makes his appearance is something that I like, something that makes me more drawn to him. And I think as well, I mean, everybody has these places, if it's not a monument, it will be something else around the area where you come from, that when you see it, it just makes you feel home, makes you think of home, or is something that you identify with home, just a familiar thing in the landscape that when you see it, you think, I'm home, I suppose at a city level, like when it comes to Glasgow, like, so when I see the Finnieston Crane, I feel drawn to that. I mean, things like that, it doesn't matter where you come from, everybody will have something that when they see it, they think it makes them feel, just makes them feel like they're home. So for me, at a local level for me, it's probably this monument to Dr. Wilson. And for years, I have to admit, it was just a familiar sight for me, that I didn't know who it was. But obviously, as the years roll by, and I've lived in Ibrox now for 40 plus years myself, there comes a time when you decide to read the inscription on something, or do a wee bit more digging, or ask questions. So yeah, I decided to try and find out a bit more about who this man was. Why was he memorialised in the community, and was pleased to find out the information that I found out about him. So yeah, he was not a philanthropist, wasn't known for being a man of wealth or anything like that. He was a local family doctor, and there's something really nice about that. I think that the monument to Dr. Wilson was arranged by the people who he had cared for. He cared for them throughout their lives, was well known in the community, and after he passed away suddenly, the people who he had cared for chose to care for his legacy, and I think there's something really nice about that. So yeah, I think I've mentioned it in another video I gave earlier on today, that I made when I was looking for Dr. Wilson's grave, because I was able to track him in the burial register after finding out when he had died, and found note of the fact that he is buried in Craigton Cemetery. I may be able to find his grave at a future date. I just didn't have the time to be spending all day in the cemetery looking for Dr. Wilson's grave. I certainly know the right section where he was. He's in again, I mentioned it in the previous video, that is these burial registers and layers have these alphanumeric reference codes, which if you're lucky you'll find carved onto the plinth of a gravestone, which helps you locate them. I also have maps that are guides plans of the various cemeteries in Glasgow, including Craigton, which I can access, that have the various sections labelled. So I was looking for Dr. Wilson's in section F, for example, today, of Craigton Cemetery, and then you're just trying to work off the numbering system to see if you can work that out, to locate, to pinpoint a particular plot or grave site, which is not always easy, because particularly in old Victorian cemeteries like Craigton, a lot of the old stones have become unstable over time, and so Craigton used to be a private cemetery. It was the Craigton Cemetery Company for many years until it was taken over by Glasgow City Council. And I think when the council took over it, they went in and had to try and make it as safe as possible. So that's the reason why a lot of the old Victorian headstones have actually been pushed over. Most of them, again, I think I mentioned that unhelpfully for genealogical purposes, have been pushed over on their fronts, but I gather that's probably to protect the inscriptions that were on them. But you can still sometimes find these reference codes, which can help you identify earlier. But alas, I was not able to find Dr. Wilson's today. Perhaps another time. But he's there somewhere. And at least his memorial is here in Ibrox. So yeah, I just thought it's nice that there's a memorial to a local man, and that he was so beloved by the community, that they decided to erect a memorial like that in his honour. I mean, there can't be that many places that can boast such a thing, I think, and that's why I think that people should be more proud of it here. Certainly, I can remember about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago now, 2015, the statue was actually stolen, or it disappeared, or certainly disappeared for a few days anyway. I remember coming home from my work. At the time I was working in the centre of Glasgow, and I was actually cycling at the time. I was cycling home that day, and I was aghast as I was cycling up Edmiston Drive, about to go to my house, and just glanced up and noticed that the statue to Dr. Wilson was gone. It disappeared overnight. So I mean, I was mortified, because I was gutted that it had gone for good, potentially, especially if I was thinking at the time it was likely that somebody might have nicked it, trying to scrap it, essentially, use it as money for scrap. But so yeah, I went home straight away, made a post about it on social media saying how outraged I was. Thankfully, that got some attention. Ended up some local media picked up that. I think it might have ended up in the Evening Times or the Daily Record, but certainly the local press as well. The Govan Press ran a story on it, and I was able to comment on that, just trying to highlight the significance of who Dr. Wilson was, and why the statue of him should be there, and why all attempts should be made to find out what had happened to it. I think as I said, it had disappeared overnight. People who lived in the tenements across the road here had noted that, or had heard a loud bang in the middle of the night, and it would have taken some considerable effort to get the thing off the plinth, which you'll see. We'll go out and have a wee quick look at it in a minute or two. But yeah, that was back in 2015, and so yeah, the media gave it some attention, and then within a few days, miraculously, it appeared again, or it was discovered by a local council worker in some bushes not too far away from the place where it should be, or now is, has returned. So potentially it became too hot to handle by the people who'd stolen it. I don't think it was just mindless vandalism, because it was taken in the middle of the night, and as I say, there was some considerable effort would have been involved in that. But doesn't matter anyway. It was returned, and one of the benefits of its rediscovery by the council workers is that it was took back into the care of Glasgow City Council, who did do a nice restoration on it, because over the years of tarnishing, the bust had actually turned green. That's mostly how I can remember it growing up, was this sort of green figure. But they managed to get it back to its original bronze colour, and it's still looking good now. So we'll go and have a wee look at it in a second. But yeah, I was just thinking about old Dr. Wilson there, and I mean, when we have a wee look at it, you'll notice he's a bit of a kind of stern-looking figure, not smiling, obviously. So the bust would have been made off the back of a photograph, no doubt. The artist would have sculpted it from a photograph. So obviously in those days people didn't smile in photographs, but when I did do a bit of research about him, certainly there was a huge article about him in the Govan Press when he passed away. And when he died, people were really affected by it in the community. As I say, he'd lived in Walmer Crescent, which is not too far away, down the road, in this kind of Cessnock area. And Walmer Crescent is beautiful in itself. Perhaps another video for another time. We can talk about it was designed by a famous architect, Alexander Greek Thompson, as he was known in Glasgow. Built Walmer Crescent. But yeah, that's where Dr. Wilson lived. That's where he died as well. He died quite unexpectedly of a stroke. I think he was in his early 50s, and the community were shocked by it, certainly. And when they had his funeral was a huge affair. I mean, it's remarkable for a man who was essentially just a local family doctor, but they had, I'm pretty sure the Govan Police Band was there was councillors. In fact, he himself was a member of the Govan Borough Council. He'd served there. Govan didn't become part of Glasgow until 1912, so he had been a Govan, rather than having councillors, Govan had commissioners, so I'm sure he was a commissioner of Govan himself, involved with many friendly societies, as most sort of middle class men in Victorian society would have been, and yeah, he was just a well-known, well-respected and well-loved member of the community. I mentioned the fact that he was kind of looks a bit stern in his bust, but certainly reading his obituary, it was clear that he'd actually been a really funny, witty, humorous man, and of course he would have had to have been serving the community of Govan and Ibrox as he did during that period, to get along so well with the local people. So yeah, there was his funeral. There was a massive cortege left from his house as it passed by shops closed in the street. People came out, and hundreds and hundreds of people came out to observe the cortege on its way to Creighton Cemetery. So it was a big deal. And yeah, I think without further ado, we'll go out and have a wee look at it. So there he is, as I say. So he gets passed by thousands of people every day. People driving up and down Edmiston Drive, and at the weekends you get thousands of people going to Ibrox. But I don't imagine very many people could actually tell you who he was or why he was important. But yeah, he wasn't a philanthropist. He wasn't a political figure. He was just a local man, loved by his community, a local hero. So yeah, Dr. Wilson.